Hello and welcome back to KSP POV, where we play Kerbal Space Program in first person. Today we're going to do two different launches. We're going to have two different missions, and we're going to be back in the probe control room, but we're going to be doing a couple different things, as well as some things that we're used to. We're going to first start off by looking at our missions, and we still have this established stable orbit, and that's been kind of bothering me, because we've gotten a Kerbal into space, We've done all sorts of things in low Kerbal orbit. We even set a scansat to the Mun. But since we've never recovered any of those probes, the contract still has yet to be completed. So we're going to try to work on that, and we're going to use some of our 121 science to unlock this miniaturization science tech node. And we're going to focus on making some smaller probes from here on out. We're going to kind of tightly compact our probes to maximize our delta V usage. So heavy rocketry and the general construction are things we're going to want to focus on next. But for now, miniaturization is all we need for this mission. And in our later mission, we're going to be gaining more science as well. So I already have plans to spend even more science. Things like the next level of precision engineering gives us a lot better comms network, so we'll be able to create a better communication satellite network for Kerbal and its planets. So anyways, we're going to start off with the QBE that I mentioned. And this is just the idea of getting this probe up into space, get it to orbit, and then bring it back down safely. Doesn't need to do much, doesn't need to do any science. But I have a lot of new parts to play around with, a lot of new small communication dishes, so it's very interesting. I've never actually built anything so micro before. I typically stop my probes at the Octo, and then the mini, the really thin one. I can't remember what the name of it is currently. But yeah, tiny little reaction wheels, tiny little heat shield. It's a fun little challenge. It's very cute looking. Single solar panel, because you don't need much. Somehow I was able to clip the parachute on top of that, so I'm not going to complain. It looks kind of fun too. I took the battery off symmetry because we only need one, and I would like to have a camera because once again we are playing in IVA. It's useful. Since the last time I showed you, I added this mod for some automation parts, but I haven't really gotten the hang of the best way to use them yet, so it's going to be a little bit before I start integrating them into my craft. It's a mod called Smart Parts. So I get that all packaged up into a fairing. I put on a fuel tank to match the size of the fairing, even though it's more fuel than we need, but regardless. So here I am, I'm going to rate the parachutes, and I do them much lower than I normally do most parachutes, but this is a smaller piece of technology. It has a much easier chance of slowing down through the atmosphere. So this is part of the simulation, hence the third-person perspective, but I just had to include it in this because I thought it was very fun, just to show you how effective the spin technique can be. I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, that I like to spin to dissipate the heat, and what you see here is some early tech solar panels that weren't able to retract. And typically they would be burnt off, and by utilizing the spin technique, even at a 4 times physics warp, we were able to touch down with the solar panels intact and extended. So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was pretty cool that it worked out that way. But in that test, I realized that I needed the Kerbal Engineer Redux chip on there because I was not getting the information I needed. And once again, we use too small of an engine, and it looks weird on the decoupling, and I don't like it, so we go for the Spark. I believe that's called the Spark engine. I could be wrong. And since it's such a small payload, I really don't need too much for this lift vehicle. I just need to get that top bit into space, and then the rest is I have plenty of fuel to bring that back down out of orbit into the atmosphere. Simple launch, simple rocket. Not too much to say about that. We're going to put some explosives on the middle stage, so that way, because that's going to be able to take us all the way to orbit. So we're going to decommission it once we're done. So we are on the launch pad, and then walk back into the probe control room. We are going to be mixing in some crewed mission as well as probe missions as well going forward. So get a taste of all the different IVAs that are out there, as well as an eventual technology progression. Once we start hitting Minimus and the outer planets, we're going to be seeing different IVA modes, different versions of the IVA modes that we have. So this mission, I'm going to kind of cut through. I'm not going to show the entirety of it. This is literally all we're doing is we're getting to orbit and then we're coming back down. So I'm just going to kind of cut to when the solid rocket boosters flame out and show that they disconnected successfully. They both have parachutes on them, so using our stage recovery mod, we should be able to get the money for those back. So now we're just pushing up our apoapsis. We don't need to satisfy any particular conditions for how high we need to be or what our periapsis needs to be, but 85 seems good enough for me. I do have to fire the engine to kind of turn myself around. I don't have a good enough reaction wheel. And at 13 seconds to the maneuver node, we go ahead and fire prograde. And it takes us no time at all to break the atmosphere and get into orbit. So I'm having a little bit of trouble with my automated buttons, so I'm just going to have to eyeball it. And now I'm planning my descent. I'm going to try to aim for the KSC, trying to come back as close as possible. I think it would be great if I could just send Jeb up to the roof to grab the package. Land on top of the VAB, that would be fun. So I get myself lined up with my nav ball. And at 18 seconds to the maneuver, go ahead and fire. We plotted it out, so we're going to burn for the precise amount of time, even though it brings us at quite a steep angle. We could have adjusted our maneuver back a little bit, and I think that would have been a little bit better. So go ahead and do the spin technique. I do have one of my solar panels deployed. I only had the one solar panel on the thing, but... And then for some reason my craft stopped spinning, so I decided to spin it the other way instead. And the heat has mostly dissipated, and we are now coming in for a landing. You can even see on the monitor, you can kind of see where the KSC is if the clouds weren't in the way. We are, however, coming in a little ways away from it. We're not going to be able to just climb onto the roof. We're going to have to drive out to pick this thing up, but Nonetheless, it's very close, and that's nice. So now, you remember when I said that I rated my parachutes lower than I normally do? Well, there's a reason why I normally do it a little higher. So this probe is dead on arrival and did not complete that contract. So the elusive get into a stable orbit contract still yet to be satisfied. So we're going to come back to the VAB and we're going to work on another probe, but for a different mission. We're going to eventually satisfy that orbit mission, but for now we need more science, and I think the best way to do that is to do a flyby probe of the Mun. So that is what this thing is. It's going to be packed with all the different experiments that we have available. Primarily the resettable experiments, but we do have 2 mystery goo containers on there, and we will take a little bit of a loss on that science, but still better than nothing. And we can always go back and collect the rest of the data later. So now I'm going to be putting some communication on this because I want to make sure that I have enough to reach the KSC. We have the one probe in orbit, in our polar orbit, that can act a little bit as a relay, but other than that we have no communication set up whatsoever, so we're going to need a good enough system. I put 2 cameras on this probe facing 2 different directions, so that way I can better track the sun and which direction my probe is actually facing, so I can get the best amount of electrical charge as possible. I'm setting up my action group, setting up all the experiments, and then I do throw on some explosives on here too, because this probe, once again, I am not planning on returning to Kerbal, so I don't want any space trash to be cluttering up my tracking station. So this probe has a self-destruct feature. Go ahead and get all of our stuff to the appropriate action groups. And the self-destruct button far down the list so they don't accidentally get smashed. And then we're going to go ahead and name this as a sub-assembly for our probe flyby, so in case we want to use it again for mid-miss or anything else, it's already there. We can go ahead and throw a Beagle engine on there, and that'll be more than enough to get ourselves to the Mun. As long as this lower stage can get us into orbit, then we should have no problem. In fact, we don't even need all the fuel in that top, that we can rely on some of this fuel to get ourselves to orbit as well. Just to give ourselves a little extra boost, we added that second tank. So we don't have the decouplers that extend out, so we make this kind of a rough little truss structure. And we want to... This rocket is going to be a little bit weird. We're going to actually have 3 side boosters on there just to give us the thrust to weight ratio that we want as on liftoff. And we're going to have fuel ducts, so they are asparagus staged. And we're going to have some parachutes to once again try to recover some of the money from this rocket. This is also going to get a flag because we have the NG flags that show the different planetary bodies that we can go to. And so since this rocket is going to the Mun, it is adorned with the Mun flag. The NG flags can be found on CCAN, and you can go ahead and click the link in the description below, and you can get a minimalist style flag for every celestial body in stock KSP. So we're going to do a test, and the test was successful, so let's go ahead and launch this for real. I love how goofy this rocket looks. I've been looking at a lot of the RP1 footage, and seeing all these hyper realistic things. So occasionally it's kind of nice to have a very Kerbal looking rocket. So let's go ahead and get our probe control room set up the way that we like it. I'm closing in on a better way of setting up all my screens. As you see here, I'm going from left to right. And then eventually I put my seat down, but eventually I come up with a better little system. And it's nice and it expedites the whole process. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, I am going to kind of cut through the important parts of this this launch to orbit, basically, because we've seen a launch to orbit. There's no need to kind of rehash all the different pieces. It's all been done before. So we're going to kind of speed through this and just show you the pertinent parts of the launch. And then once we're in orbit, then we're going to focus on the flyby of the Mun and all the things that come with that. And that's where we're going to leave the footage unedited, because even though we've flown to the Mun before, this mission is still something unique. So I kind of talked through it, but our SRBs, or side boosters, staged off mostly well. One of the boosters crashed into another one and destroyed its parachute. So we are only going to be getting the 2 solid. I keep wanting to say solid rocket boosters, but those are actually liquid fuel. But we're going to be getting those side boosters back. So 2 is better than nothing. And here I am just circularizing the orbit, and everything is good. So now from here on out, we're going to leave the footage unedited, because this is all new stuff and interesting. I go ahead and catch a little peek of the solar eclipse going on behind me. If that's what you can see on that small screen there. I target the Mun, and then I go ahead and plot a maneuver. I just need to do a flyby, but I do need to get into low space, because I'm going to be doing science experiments for both low and high. And you can see there the nice little eclipse going on. There's 2 eclipses that happen every day in over Kerbal, so you can always be sure to find one, or have one messing with your craft. And once we time warp forward a little bit, you can see that our solar panels are once again regaining charge. So we're time warping to our maneuver. And it is a 1 minute and 3 second burn. Pretty easy. And this is once again using just our Terrier engine. And you can see the time slowing down, and that's because I'm trying to make sure that I don't time warp past it. Because we are in IVA mode, we are not clicking the auto warp, and we're not using Kerbal alarm clock on this either. Make sure to get myself lined up correctly and as closely as possible, because little changes in direction make a big difference down the line. And once we hit the 1 minute mark, we're going to have to slow down considerably, because our maneuver needs to be fired at about 31.5 seconds to the maneuver node. So I just scoot myself forward in time. And a little bit over 31.5. I did it, I think, at 31.7, but that's okay. And you can see the purple markers there. That is the position at our closest approach. It's something I turned on in the settings menu, but I don't know that I like it. It's a little bit distracting. And it's not really necessary until you're actually making an approach. But, you know, it doesn't bother me enough that I'm running out to go change the settings right now. Sometimes we put up with a lot of stuff just for the simple fact that we don't want to go and change the settings. It's just too much of a burden to go and proactively change something. Just as a side note, while we're sitting here waiting for this burn to extend out to the MUN, here is your reminder to go ahead and turn off sticky keys. And go find, if you're in the Windows, if you have Windows, you can go into your settings. I don't remember exactly where it is, but I think most Windows have a search function. You just type in sticky keys. Go ahead and turn that off now, and you will never be bothered by that little pop-up window again. Obviously, if you have accessibility needs that sticky keys can satisfy, then by all means, you know, keep that on, because then it'll let you know whether or not you need sticky keys. It'll ask you if you need sticky keys at the time. And but if you don't, and there's no reason for you to ever have it, I've seen many a game fail, many a mission crash because sticky keys came in at the most inappropriate time. Here I am talking past my intended time to cut off my burn, and went right past it. So I'm going to just flip around a little bit. Point retrograde. It's okay. Little goes a long way here. And as you see, I have the indicator that I have a sphere of influence change. So we're going to go ahead in the map mode and just bring that down to under 30 kilometers, because that is the designation for low space over the MUN. Every celestial body has a different range for what they consider low and high space, so it's important to read up on which body you're going to. So as you see here, we recovered 3 of the parts. And I believe that is 2 of the side boosters and the center one. I have persistent rotation on, but I still don't really know how to use it. I haven't been having a lot of luck with it. So, in fact, all it's really done is kept my craft spinning at times. And I know that is realistic, but I have that for I have RP1 for my realism. So, I am going to eventually get rid of persistent rotation. So here, it took a while for the sphere of influence to stop freezing my computer, so I just went ahead and did a fade real fast to where we made it. We did all of our science experiments, and we're transmitting it. As you see here, we went from 60 science, and we're going to be raising that up. So you can see in the top right, we already made 31 science from that. And we're going to time warp our way closer to our periapsis, and just enjoy a nice view of the MUN as we fly by it. That's why you always have to have cameras on. It's always want to have that view. Okay, so now we're in low space. We're just going to go ahead and run all of our experiments again. We're going to keep them and use our action group to transmit them all. I wanted to make sure that I had enough battery level to transmit, so instead of just starting with the transmit, to keep everything just in case. So now we have 145.5 science. That is pretty amazing. That's exactly what we need to get on track. So I go ahead and let my probe continue to fly out. And that's when I noticed that it's actually on an escape trajectory of Kerbin's sphere of influence entirely. So I go ahead and we're just going to let that go. We're going to send this into orbit of the sun. We were going to destroy it. We have our explosives on there set to go. But why not gain a little bit of solar science as well? I mean, most of the experiments on here are resettable. They can, they can be ran again, and we're close enough to Kerbal that we still have communication. So once we find ourselves in orbit of the sun, let's just go ahead and run our experiments again. We're not going to get the mystery goo, but that's okay. Look at all that science. That is impressive. So we're going to go ahead and once more transmit all that we can. There we have it. This mission has yielded 220.5 science. We are doing great with that. This has been a success, and though we are not bringing it back home, we are not satisfying the orbital contract. Still, I was very happy with this. So let's go ahead and get ourselves ready to detonate. We're going to come out here into third person just because we'd like to see the fire show. Ah, beautiful. So Gene Kerman gets off from the desk and goes ahead and clocks out for the day. It's had a long night. So now that we have a whole bunch of science and we have a whole bunch of money, let's go ahead and upgrade our R&D department, and then we will be able to take surface samples and EVA experiments, but more importantly, we have unlocked the next tier of science tech available, and we have enough points to actually unlock one. So let's kind of go and look through everything. I've been really enjoying doing the mini probes. That's been a lot of fun. So I think I'm just going to go with this precision propulsion. We can get a lot from the advanced electrics. We can especially start creating better satellites and communication network. With precision engineering, we do get a lot of those same things as well, but in a mini version, and as well as some structural pieces. But I think we're going to wait on this one because it's primarily more construction pieces and then some communication dish pieces that I've never quite used before. I haven't done the kind of thing. And I am really looking forward to supersonic flight. I want to start making space planes and having fun with that. But we are going to go for precision propulsion because for now we're kind of in the mindset of little mini sats, mini probes, so we're going to keep on that. But we're going to be doing some new stuff in the next coming episodes as well as some crewed stuff. But anyways, that's where I'm going to leave today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward for more KSP POV. If you did, please consider giving me a like, drop me a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.